In August 2015, Maddie Thorson and Noel Berry participated in a 4-day-long game jam, during which they chose to develop a game for the Pico 8. They wanted the concept itself to be minimal, with additional mechanics to make the game more complex, to which the idea of a character struggling to climb a mountain felt as though it fit really well, as they would put it. The initial prototype was titled Everest, and its design as a whole initially lacked direction. Thorson and Berry later decided to approach the project as a single-player adventure, and Thorn's previous game, Towerfall, inspired many mechanics and ideas that were later be included in this upcoming title. After the development of the Pico 8 version, the team wanted to expand the game with additional development time and less restrictions. This title was produced by Thorson, and Berry served as the lead programmer. Development was supported by Nintendo during its last year, and the development team underwent crunch during the last few months of development. While crunch is a terrible thing in the games industry, the game was a smash hit and leading to one of my favorite games of all time, Celeste. This is gonna be a hard game to talk about. Celeste is a narrative-driven single-player adventure that tackles a serious topic: mental illness and anxiety. It came out in 2018 with praise from every corner of the world. It was nominated for Game of the Year when its competition was God of War 2018 and Marvel's Spider-Man. I first played Celeste in 2021, and after that playthrough, I knew I had to make a video on this game one day. So why not do it right now, because this game is worthy of being called a classic in every way, with its gripping and relatable story, fun gameplay, and atmospheric music. So, let's get started. Now, I want to talk about the story for last, since I believe it is the most important part of the game. So let's talk about the visuals. Celeste is a game that I think looks stunning. The game is styled in a 8 to 16-bit art style, with hand-drawn portraits that appear when characters talk. This allows for versatility in the game's environments and characters. So I do wish the characters looked a little more detailed, but it's not that bad, just a little too simple for my liking. The soundtrack to this game is phenomenal. It leans more on atmosphere from what I listen to, and it really sets in the themes of the story. I am not a music expert, so might I recommend this video by GameScore Fanfare. He goes deep into how the music approaches the theme of anxiety, whether by introducing it or turning stress into something more productive. For now, let's just listen to some of my favorite songs from the game. Now it's time to move on to the gameplay. Celeste moves so well in this game. I never felt like it was unresponsive at all. She has the typical dump, but she has two other moves. If you hold the trigger, she can attach herself to the wall and climb it, or hold certain objects. This can be useful in the game since you are, well, climbing a mountain after all. And finally, you have a dash. Now, this is what sets Celeste apart from your typical platformer. She can only dash once, and it comes back once you land on the ground, touch a crystal, enter a ball, a feather, or transitioning screens. In fact, the last one I mentioned is necessary to grabbing one of the crystal hearts in this game. It's a very simple moveset, but it gets the job done. Now, what matters is the level design, and hoo boy, these levels are hard as fuck. These are some of the hardest levels I have ever played in a 2D platformer. There is a new challenge awaiting you at every location. Forklifts, galaxy-looking goo, black smog, feathers from a short hike, bumpers, my kitchen sink, the whole shebang. Now, they all are in one giant level, The story is divided into 7 chapters, an optional 8th chapter, and the 9th chapter, which I am about 3/13 through, but I don't want to talk about it because it tackles something that is way too personal than the story already is. And there are bosses in this game, with Mr. Oshiro and Battleline being the standout examples. They are more obstacles in the platforming challenges, which I don't mind because it means you have to think on your toes, and I personally love it. There are things to collect in this game. First, you have strawberries that are optional. They only affect the ending shot of the main story and are only there to be optional. Even the postcard says that they're optional and are basically bragging rights. Now, what you want to collect are these crystal hearts, since if you collect 4 of them, you can play chapter 8. And some of these you have to think about, like needing to transition screens to get this one in chapter 2. Now, chapter 8 is optional, like I said, but if you want to play it, you need to grab 4 of these, and don't get me started on chapter 9. Then you have the mixtapes for the variations of these levels, B-side and C-side. These are quite a challenge and have their own hearts as well. I think these make the game more challenging if you want to go after them, and are fun distractions that increase the time of this game, even though I spent nearly 24 hours playing this game. Now for the big one. We talk about the story of Celeste. I've been holding this off till the end because this is a very personal story. Celeste begins with Madeline getting dropped off at the base of Celeste Mountain. She meets an old woman who tells her that Celeste Mountain is a strange place and that she might see things she isn't ready to see. As we travel along, we meet Theo, who is cool and chill and will be important later in the story. In chapter 2, while Madeline is sleeping, we meet her other self that we will call Battleline. We learn that she is Madeline's worst traits and insecurities made manifest. She is ruthlessly tormenting you throughout the story, seen with Mr. Oshiro in chapter 3. Madeline later is with Theo on a forklift. When the forklift just stops and the controls are broken, Madeline starts to have a panic attack. Then what we learn more at the beginning of chapter 6 is that Madeline suffers from anxiety and depression. She's prone to panic attacks. She's good at hiding her emotional struggles, putting on a positive facade so that nobody suspects anything. She's a bit reclusive, but has no problems helping folks out when asked. And this is why I wanted to save this for last, because this is something that I think anyone can relate to. Personally, I have anxiety and traits of depression. There are days where I just sit in bed or pace back and forth or walk around in circles thinking about how I am gonna die or when I'm gonna die, and if anyone around me will die sooner than later. Sometimes I don't have the energy to get out of bed and I am too scared to ask or look for help. That is why Celeste hit me hard, because I relate to Madeline and her struggles, and I think anyone can as well. We learn that Battleline is as much as Madeline as, well, Madeline. Madeline accepts her at the end of chapter 6, and they both work their way up to the top, and when they do, they are happy and enjoy the view for a bit. Then we make it to Granny's house, where everyone enjoys a strawberry pie with the strawberries you collected. I hope you understand now why I love Celeste. It is a game that resonates with me both on a gameplay level and on a story level. I hope you can see why it's one of my favorite games ever made. But if you are suffering from anxiety or depression, I know how it feels. That hopelessness, that feeling that you're going nowhere, that you're up a creek with no paddle, that makes you think things are worse than they are. That makes you isolate yourself and your friends and family, and how that makes you think that everyone doesn't like you. It's tough, but little by little, keep going. You have to celebrate the little victories. You have to inch your way to true happiness. Once you do, then you are ready to brave the rest of life once again.